On BBC Radio Lancashire, we'll have the latest traffic and travel for you very shortly as well. But firstly, does Labour have a problem with anti-Semitism? Some MPs and activists within the party certainly think that they have and are now campaigning to toughen the rules on it, as well as Islamophobia and racism too. Jeremy Newmark runs the Jewish Labour movement.
Everybody's talking about zero tolerance of anti-Semitism, but it's become apparent because of a spate of incidents over the past couple of months that the rules and processes of the party don't provide adequate provision to deal with it.
Well, those incidents include a councillor who was forced to apologise and resign this week after messages were sent from her social media account claiming Hitler was the greatest man in history and that Iran could wipe Israel off the map using nuclear weapons. Wes Streeting is one of the MPs involved who thinks lifetime bans should be considered.
We've now got a problem where too many of our Jewish members and people out there in the country think that the Labour Party is apathetic to anti-Semitism and it isn't a place for Jewish members. And I think we've got to make sure that this party, with its historic commitments tackling all forms of prejudice, including anti-Semitism, is still a place for Jewish people.
We've been told by Labour that they welcome the contributions of affiliates and members in the important debate. Rule changes can be submitted to Labour's annual conference where they will be democratically agreed by the delegates. Well, Jonathan Sacerdoti is from the Campaign Against Antisemitism and is with us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us. What do you make of this? Do you think there is a real problem here, or did we just have a rogue councillor who, for some reason, wrote some really stupid things?
Well, Joey, I don't think it's just one rogue councillor, unfortunately. I mean, this is the latest in a string of stories we've seen over recent weeks of Labour-associated people, from MPs like Sir Gerald Kaufman to some years back Lord Nazir Ahmed, to Isaac Al-Gurbaz, this Luton councillor now, to Vicky Kirby, to Jerry Downing, all of them expressing similar Jew hatred in public and feeling it's acceptable. And it's not just us at the Campaign Against Antisemitism who've noticed this and are calling on the party to do more. You don't need to just listen to me. You can listen to any number of voices from within the party or outside it. Lord George Carey, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, who spoke out a couple of weeks ago saying that the Labour Party, unless it toughens up on these anti-Semites, was unfit to govern. Lord Michael Levy, a Labour peer, who said that he would consider leaving the party if it didn't tighten up its reaction to these. Wes Streeting MP, who we just heard there, speaking out about how the rules need changing because they're insufficient to deal with this. Louise Ellman MP, another MP who's spoken out about this. And then outside the party, David Cameron, of course, who's called out the party on this sort of thing. The list goes on and on. Plenty of people are seeing that there is a problem, and it's not just, unfortunately, one rogue councillor.
Why? Why do you believe people are doing this? It almost beggars belief that they would write such things.
Indeed it does, and you can imagine how Jewish people in the 21st century in Great Britain are wondering how we've got to this point, where not only do some people have these views, and anti-Semitism is sometimes called the oldest hatred, but they're feeling able to express them openly as if they're somehow acceptable. This is very distressing, of course, and people are thinking about whether or not this is a changing climate, whether Jewish people will be as safe in Great Britain in the future when these sorts of opinions exist against a backdrop of a Europe where Jews have been killed by terrorists repeatedly, whether it's in Paris, in that kosher supermarket where they were killed, or in Brussels Jewish Museum, or in a Jewish school in Toulouse, or in fact in countless other attacks on Jewish people that have caused injury and death and have made people very afraid. And we can't forget that last year's statistics showed that Jewish people emigrating from Western Europe to Israel was at its highest level since the aftermath of the Holocaust. With that going on around us in Europe, and these sorts of things coming out now in the press about the Labour Party and plenty of other places where we see anti-Semitism as well in Great Britain, Jewish people are questioning whether or not they will feel as safe here in the future as they have done in the past.
You must realise, though, and I think that the Labour Party would probably be the first people to say this if you're making the comments about the Labour Party, but I suspect it would be the same from all parties. You must realise that the vast, vast, vast majority of people don't hold these views, don't even think these views, don't even give any credence at all to even thinking these views.
Of course we do, and that's why, as an organisation, the Campaign Against Antisemitism is calling on all British people of good conscience to demand that the Labour Party and any other organisations that find it has some sort of problem of anti-Semitism within its ranks, they're calling on these people to tighten up their rules and to make sure it's made perfectly clear that these sorts of views, this Jew hatred, these slurs and attacks on Jewish people are totally unacceptable. It's not a British value. Most people in Britain are not just tolerant of Jewish people, but actually recognise the great contribution they do make and have made throughout history, and also respect anybody's right to identify and worship and recognise their own ethnicity and culture. This is something we just can't tolerate, whether it's in the Labour Party or any other political party or any other organisation, full stop.
OK, thank you very much indeed for speaking with us. It's just coming up to 7:45. It is BBC Radio Lancashire.